Now, I normally tell you that we have a great interview for you. That's unquestionably true in this case. But we've also got a trippy interview for you today because this is a really interesting topic. It's about the Hyperloop. So I brought in, two of the best experts in the world on it because they're building the Hyperloop. Dirk Ahlborn is the CEO of Hyperloop Transportation Technologies. And this is great. Bibop Greta is the Deputy Chairman, COO, and Chief Bebop Officer.
Exactly.
Okay. So now you're going to force me to start on Chief Bebop Officer.
Okay.
What is that and how do I become one? And do I have to be named Bebop to become one?
So first, you can't be a Chief Bebop Officer because you're not Bebop. So
Okay, that's fair.
Probably it's the way to avoid that anybody take my place inside the company. So yeah, that's no my function as basically the task to organize and to make this thing happen. So we're working very hard with 540 scientists worldwide in 52 countries.
540 scientists.
Yeah.
Good. That makes me feel a little bit better. If I'm going to take it, I want 540 scientists on
Right.
It's new. So that's great. I'm going to one day become Chief Jank Officer, and I'm going to.
You
really
should
like
do it.
There you go.
Yeah, and we've all got interesting names here. Well, Dirk, approximately 80 million Germans are named Dirk. But Bebop I've never heard before. Is that a common Italian name or?
No, it's me probably.
It's you. It's you. Okay. And so we've got an all-European panel, which I don't think I've ever had before. I was born on the European side of Istanbul, and then Germany and Italy. Okay. We could do a soccer match right here.
We should do it.
But instead, we're going to talk about the Hyperloop. So, first question is, what is it? Right? So we did a story on this a while back on the Young Turks, and we got super excited because it seems like it can go really fast. And so there was this idea of that it can go New York to LA in an hour. You know what? Before we figure out how and why, is that true or is that no? That's too much.
No, I mean a lot of people talk about that, but in real, it's mostly for point-to-point connections. So you would be able to go from Los Angeles to New York eventually. It would be possible. Would be fairly expensive to build the infrastructure. So what you would do is you would create a network. In an hour is a little bit more difficult. For now, we're limited at the speed of sound, right? So it's just 1,220 kilometers, so 760 miles per hour, right below actually. So it's LA to San Francisco, 36 minutes is more.
Okay, all right. Well, I can live with that. 36 minutes to San Francisco, not bad. You reassure me you're going to build an LA to Vegas one, though. I mean, you got nothing but desert in front of us, right? We could do that, can't we?
Actually, LA to Vegas is one that's super interesting and important because it's one of the deadliest highways in America.
Oh, that's interesting. It's also one of the most annoying highways in America. If there's any traffic, that's it. You're stuck there for 9 straight hours.
Well, the problem
no highways ever needed a Hyperloop more than that one.
The problem is then LA would be empty on the weekends, right? Everybody would be in Vegas.
So the state of Nevada should just pay for what you guys are doing because, boy, they'd get a ton of traffic from LA. So it would take, then I imagine it would take about the same time as San Francisco, about 30 some odd minutes from LA to Las Vegas?
Maybe less. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, roughly you have to slow down a little bit because you're going over the pass there. There's a natural reserve, so that's the only thing. But yeah, roughly it's the same time.
Well, a lot of the people talks about the speed of the Hyperloop, right? The incredible thing, I think, that is what we are doing, and this is the most amazing thing about what we are doing, is that it's more efficient. It's moving people between cities, but in a very efficient way. Usually, when you look at the other way of transportation, like rails or airplanes, they consume a lot in terms of energy or fuel, and they also pollute a lot. Our system is incredibly efficient because it uses a combination of renewable energies. So we're able to use a solar panel, wind, kinetic energy, means moving the capsule, we can generate electricity. Also, when we slow down, we can recoup the energy by regenerative braking. And in some climates where the solar panels are not efficient, we are also using geothermal. the combination of this can produce 30% more electricity than we consume. And this is the amazing thing. You can make a system profitable.
So is there different ways of making a Hyperloop? Is there a Hyperloop with gas and a Hyperloop with solar and geothermal? Or is it just one way and it doesn't involve gas, oil at all? I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, in general, Hyperloop is electric, right? So I think we haven't really explained what Hyperloop is.
Yes.
So, so basically, you have to imagine a capsule filled with people, right? So roughly 30, which is hovering inside this tube. And it's traveling at the speed of sound from one destination to the other. And that's possible because you have vacuum pumps along the track that take all the air out of these tubes, so that the capsule doesn't encounter any resistance. It's hovering, so it doesn't touch the walls, it doesn't encounter any air in front of it, and now it can travel super fast with very little energy. Very similar to an airplane that goes into high altitudes. You know, so when they go really, really high, the air pressure is very low, so they can travel without using a lot of energy. And now you use alternative energy, like Bibop just described, to produce more energy than you're actually using. So the operational costs are super low. So you can move very efficiently, very fast, a lot of people, anywhere, from anywhere to anywhere.
So is the main trick to it the vacuum and the fact that there's no friction? Is that the main reason why it makes it so fast?
So it's all about, you know, if you take a normal train and they go up to 500 kilometers, right, 300, 600 kilometers, 300 miles per hour, the energy consumption is proportional actually to the speed. So, you know, it becomes more, you consume more and more energy the more you go faster.
Exactly.
In a normal situation.
Correct.
Yeah.
But in this situation, you don't.
Well, in this, I mean, which means that at 600 kilometers an hour, you're consuming a lot of energy. So in order to make it still efficient to go at high speeds, you have to change something. And that's what you're doing in this low pressure environment. So you're basically taking the air out, and now you don't need as much energy anymore, right? Much, much lower, because the pressure is much lower. And yeah, the whole system like makes sense again, because you know it's.
Well, your question about what you know, if there are different hyperloops, it's very good, because in effect there are a couple of companies that are working on the hyperloop. We are the first original that created also the movement around the hyperloop. In our hyperloop, it's all about how to provide a system that is not only efficient, fast, but it's also sustainable. We're looking at a lot of aspects on how to revolutionize and to make it better to build infrastructures. And we are looking at several material, smart material that can actually has less impact in the territory that we are building it. We're looking on how to optimize the way we produce energy. We are using special approach to create pylons that, for example, are able to have vertical gardens. So our Hyperloop, it's looking at an holistic way to solve the transportation problem. And we have the best engineers in the planet that are working with us using crowdsourcing. Basically, we are giving stock option to these people that can work minimum 10 hours a week in exchange of stock options. And this is the first attempt that humanity did in such a large scale. And it's amazing to see the results. In 3 years, we are building the first full-scale passenger and freight Hyperloop.
Is that being done through your other company, Dirk? You're CEO of this company and the
JumpstartFund.
And the JumpstartFund, right?
Yeah. So the story goes basically that I was part of a nonprofit incubator that was funded by NASA, and we were trying to work on a new way of how we build companies. So imagine, like today, you do everything online, right? You get your groceries online, you get your dry cleaning, you find your boyfriend, girlfriend online. In America, you even can get divorced online. But when it comes to building a business, it's still you with a buddy and a beer in a bar, and you just start working. But if you use the internet, you can work with people that are passionate about the same things you are. That you can work with the best person in the world, even if he lives in Japan, rather than working with a mediocre engineer maybe that lives around the corner, right? You can find someone who's completely so passionate that he wants to help you completely and be involved. So we built this platform, and when Elon Musk came up with the Hyperloop concept and said, hey, I think this is a great idea, someone should do this. I'm too busy with Tesla and SpaceX. We reached out, asked for permission to put it on the platform, and asked the community, should we be doing this? And not only did they say, yes, you should be doing this, but they said, hey, I want to be part of this. So we incorporated the company, got a small team together, and said everybody who would like to join and work in exchange for stock options with a minimum of 10 hours per week, please apply. We got around 200 applications, got a team together of around 100 people, and started working on the feasibility study because we didn't know if this was even possible. Mm-hmm. And in December 2014, we finished and basically said, okay, we've done it. It's doable, not only from a technical point of view, but also more importantly from an economical point of view. And today, as Bibop said, we are over 540. We have 40 companies that are part of the team all around the world. I mean, it's an amazing team. Everybody is fueled by passion. We have over 30,000 people in our community that give us their ideas, their opinions, help us with their connections. I mean, I have people reaching out to me on Facebook and saying, hey, I would like you to meet the president of, and at the end we go and we meet, those people. And it's really amazing when you have an open approach, when you open your arms and you say, we don't know, maybe you have an idea, just join us.
So what I'm hearing from this is I'm getting stock options at some point. Is that what I'm hearing? That's what I heard,
exactly.
right? Because I'm also open to it. I'm also interested in it.
Minimum 10 hours per week, you're on.
Oh, forget it. Never mind. Okay, so you mentioned Elon Musk there. So the way the story is told, and I'm curious if this is accurate, is that Elon Musk, for lack of a better word, invents this, right? And then says, okay, I'm too busy doing SpaceX and Tesla. The rest of the world, you take this and run with it. Good luck. Now, that's the very, very simple story that's boiled down in the media. So tell us what the reality is. How close to true is that, and what's the rest of the story?
Well, there's, first of all, the idea has been around for quite some time. Already, I think Jules Verne's son wrote about traveling inside a tube in one of his books.
Like maybe he could get all the way around the world in 80 days.
Well, actually, probably a little bit faster, but
with a Hyperloop, maybe 80 hours.
The first subway in New York was actually a pneumatic tube. So they tried to move through a pressure difference, a capsule filled with people. And obviously, the goal was to connect New York to San Francisco. That didn't work out. But they built a station and they built a track. The first patent was done in 1904. We had 2 projects in the 60s in America that were financed. In Switzerland, they had a project called Swiss Metro. You might remember the Jetsons, right? Futurama, The Simpsons. It has been in our fantasies for quite some time. And I think, Elon Musk, when he looked at the California high-speed rail project, which is very expensive, and in general there's a big problem in public transportation. There's no rail line, no metro line in the whole world that's profitable. They're all losing money. They're all depending on government subsidies. So there's a project costing, I believe, $68 billion, and it's still going to be fairly slow. So he was saying, look, $68 billion, we can do something better. And he came up basically with the concept of the Hyperloop, which has incorporated all these different ideas from the past and just said, I looked at this makes sense, we should be doing this. That's kind of the story. Okay,
so then once he does that, now you guys mentioned there's several companies who are doing this, they then take that and go, in your guys' case, okay, now all these engineers, help us make it better, help us implement it, help us build it.
So what we did is, we realized there were several attempts. This is not an easy project, right? So you have to build infrastructure. You're dealing with governments. It's fairly complicated. So we realized we had to do more than just building a company. We had to build a movement, right? So And that was part of it, right? It's this call of people, if you want to be part of this, join us, was part of building this movement. And, after we finished the feasibility study, now there's a couple of other companies and projects all around the world. I mean, there's some attempts in China and in other countries. And that's fine. That's part of building a movement, right? In a movement, having a movement means also that it doesn't depend only on us. That there's others that are trying to do the same thing, and you don't want to be really alone in a market. You want to be, sitting when you're talking to the regulators, you want to have several companies there. We know when we looked at the technology, there's a couple of different ways on how you can do this, always at the end. Obviously, we choose the one that, in our opinion, is the best fit. But, the world's a very large place, and at least our goal is to make transportation better. So the overall goal from our company is really, make transportation an experience again. Right, enjoying it, which we're not doing today.
And this has also some very interesting consequences, because if you see the traditional way to build companies, you usually raise a bunch of money and then you spend it as fast as you can, and then you raise another bunch and then you spend it and so on.
Yeah,
the model,
I kind of hate that system, but yes.
I hate it. Because
right.
it's basically continuously reinventing thing, and the race is to basically burn as much as we can. The planet has to stop, honestly, to see, especially when you're talking about these important topics like transportation. All the transportation in the planet are subsidized by the state, so they don't have to innovate. They just burn money, and they use tax money to basically sustain these black holes. What we are doing is to demonstrating that when you put the best people in the planet to solve the problem, you can find solution. They're actually reusing the things that you have. If we need a wind chamber, we have 10 wind chamber offered by the community. We've been able to collect 60 million in assets like this. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing because we haven't raised a penny, and we are building the most advanced transportation system in the planet using the best resources we have available, minds. Mm-hmm. And this is
so when you
incredible.
say you haven't raised a penny, you haven't raised it from VCs or any of that traditional, but you are raising it from JumpstartFund.
Well, we have self-financed what we needed, of course. Yeah. I mean, which is luckily not a lot. You need to pay for patent filings, for licensing, for building the prototypes that we have.
Isn't that a lot, though? I saw $150 million or something.
Well,
somewhere?
that's so the 150 million or 165 is actually for the first full-scale passenger version. Yeah. Right. So we are now at a point where we have all the technologies. We have version 1 ready. It has been tested. We have been working with a lot of national research labs and universities, taking a lot of the technologies that were actually already out there and put them together. So now, we're ready to build the first passenger version, and that's going to require.
Did you already spend the 165?
No, we're going to.
You're going to. Yes. Okay. All right. So that's all right. Now, and you guys said there's a lot of companies, so not a lot, but some. So it's, for example, conceivable that you can get the contract for LA to Vegas, and some other Hyperloop company gets the contract for LA to San Francisco. Conceivable.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's different companies out there. I think it makes sense at one point to really sit together and try to make them interchangeable, right? Make sure that it works the right way. I mean, for us right now, the most important thing is to get there. The biggest problem is regulations, and if you're more than one company, that's an advantage. So sitting down with the regulators, talking about how can we implement this new system? How can we make sure that it's the safest system out there? By design, at least in our case, I mean, it's 10 times safer than an airplane. So you got to make sure that you have the highest standards. Right? We're traveling at the speed of sound. So, we want to make things better than they are today. So,
and by the way, you talk to the regulators because they just want to make sure that it works, it's safe.
Yeah, of course.
And so another thing that comes up is, okay, there's not a straight line to everywhere. There are mountains, there are a lot of natural obstacles.
Right.
So how do you solve that? So for example, New York to LA, there's a million things in between.
Right. First, you don't have to think about the Hyperloop like a bullet that goes at 760 miles per hour.
Well,
It's
that
like
sounds
a train.
fun, though. I want to.
It's fun, but for us, the most important thing is the comfort of the passenger. The unique experience that we are designing is better than an airplane. You have no turbulence inside the capsule. You have maximum 1G. A G is the measure of the acceleration and deceleration. So 1G is basically very similar to a sports car, right? And in the average speed, we will be always maintaining maximum that acceleration and deceleration and 0.5 lateral. So you actually don't feel much more than what you experience in an airplane. The most interesting thing is that if you have to do a curve or go up and down, you will slow down simply. But the feature of the Hyperloop is that it will be the safest because you're actually doing what the airplane does above the clouds. But in case of emergency, you can stop the capsule in 6.4 seconds, give the people a deceleration of 5G, so it's a little brutal, but you save their life. You can evacuate the tube, open the emergency exits, and actually save their life. In case of emergency in an airplane, in a failure like this, you just lose the people because there's no way to save them.
So when you say go around or go up top, so is this thing on rails and it's going like this and then it gets a mountain, so you guys got to go over the mountain like this? I mean, I'm having trouble, visualizing it.
You optimize it, obviously, the route as much as you can. You want to go as straight as possible, but not always it's possible to go as straight, especially when you go outside of the city or inside the city, right? You have to somehow, sometimes you need to have some curves, but of course they need to be as smooth as possible. So we optimize the route based on comfort, speed, and cost, but comfort is the one that's the most important. So you just so it's never going to be like this. But of course you can have curves, and just like you would have with a normal train right now, you don't have to go at 760 miles per hour. It's a possibility. So a lot of people forget that. But you can go slower if you have to. It's going to take you a minute longer, but at least you're very comfortable.
And we are built on pylon, so we are suspended. Average of 20 feet, but of course, depending on the terrain, you can have pylons of 100 feet. The terrain moves below us.
Right. So when I mentioned New York to LA in the beginning, you were like, So what's the difficulty in New York to LA? Just enormous expense in building it out all the way over there?
It just makes more sense probably to to take an airplane. It's a huge infrastructure cost. So, you'll get there, but not directly LA to New York. You would do LA to Las Vegas to Memphis, maybe. Right? You move around, and similar to a metro, you would create this network, and then yes, you get over to the East Coast fairly fast, but it's not like a long track right from the beginning.
Right.
The uniqueness of our Hyperloop, for example, we designed the pylon to be able to sustain 7 tubes. So what it means is that you can scale up and afford the growth that America will have in the next future. It's calculated that we will have probably 9 billion people in the planet within 2030. So the idea is to have a system that doesn't have to basically rethink everything from the beginning, like an highway. They always build an additional highway and it gets filled of cars in a second. They don't plan how to the population scale
So
up.
like the Jetsons, you'll have like this level, this level, this level, but they weren't in a Hyperloop. But is that kind of the idea there?
Well, the most important part is actually that
I like to simplify things.
Yes.
So we're business, right? As I said earlier, we don't plan on depending on government subsidies. So, but we're building something that makes economical sense. So if you reach capacity, you know, that's the best thing that can happen to you, and you just add a tube. But already with one tube, we can substitute air travel between Los Angeles and San Francisco 5 times, and we have 2. So, you know, capacity
24 million people a year.
So is the ideal situation here then just like these routes that are practical, that you could actually build and people can use? So, I mean, LA to San Francisco, LA to Vegas seem almost ideal. So, and you'll eventually build it like a metro, but it sounds to me that it's more for like those, not smaller routes, but mid-sized routes as opposed to the longer ones.
It's, you know, so as a company, our goal is, I think, much bigger. Our goal is to, you know, solve the issues that we're having around transportation, getting people around, not only to substitute air travel between one city and the other. So the Hyperloop is a perfect system because it has very low operational costs. It produces all the energy that it needs itself, right? So that has a lot of advantages. But you have to use innovation. You have to use, and that's where our community and our team comes in. You have to bring the smartest minds in the world together and really redesign how we're moving today. Because, you know, if you get from LA to San Francisco in 36 minutes, or let's say Vegas in 30, but it takes an hour and a half to get to that station, how often do you really go, right?
That's
so
right.
you have to really, you have to solve all those issues. You want to build something that people use every single day, several times a day. You know, making it not something where you like treat it like cattle, right, in front of the gate, but something that you enjoy, where everything it's seamless and you're enjoying the ride. It's an experience. It's something that you're looking forward to. Because right now, I mean, if you go to Washington, do you really enjoy taking the flights? Not really.
Yeah, well, I'm going in coach, so trust me, I'm not enjoying the flight. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, though. I honestly, I believe your guys' intent. I'm not sure that's how it's going to wind up in that. And the reason I say that is money is money. And so it'll start out as, hey, like I remember in the planes in the beginning were like, oh my God, it's a big deal, and you get dressed up and they treat you super nice and they give you food. Now there is something in the airline industry called calculated misery.
Right.
That if they can make you a certain percentage miserable, you'll pay more to not be miserable.
We
so
agree.
you'll say to check in early, to get, you know, et
But
cetera.
there's a difference in there, okay? These businesses are subsidized. Even the flight industry is subsidized by discounts, tax exemptions, and so on, and sometimes directly subsidized. So in an economy that is completely, let's say, altered by the, you know, the pure in sustainability, okay, that happens. In our industry, you know, in Hyperloop, it's really very efficient. And we are now working with Fullerton, with big universities on how, for example, to get revenues from the user without charging a ticket. And we are looking at the numbers and we are astonished on how nobody has tapped into this potential yet in the normal industry, in the rail, because you know they have a huge amount of data they are not using, and we can literally travel for free just using that data, okay? And they're not doing it. So imagine what you can do when you have a system that is capable to do Los Angeles, San Francisco. You can do $1 billion a month when the system is completely fully at capability and without charging a ticket. So we have a system that is really revolutionary in this sense. So how much is enough? For a company, if in one route you can do so much amount of money, and that's the question we ask every day as an entrepreneur, reconsider completely also the role that we have in a society. And that's why we are also creating a model that is different.
Well, so
making
first of all,
participation.
I hope you guys succeed, because I know
Thank
it
you.
sounds a little it sounds a little, utopian, and I hope so. So
But
cross
it's
my
not.
fingers. But look, if you keep the corporation private, then you can say, hey, you know what, Dirk, we made $1 billion this month. It's enough. But if it's a public corporation, they'll say, no, it's not enough. You have to maximize every penny.
No, but
right?
it depends a little bit how you go at it, right? It's always the question is always what is your business model.
Right.
So, and if your business model is selling tickets and getting more people in there, yes, then you get to the point where you are with the airline industry. But the question is really, is there a better way? Is there a way where we don't need a ticket?
Okay,
And
you're going to make me ask. How do you not pay for a ticket?
Well,
like,
I mean,
how do you make money then?
The whole thing is about if I find a way that I make more money, the more the passenger rides, right? Then a ticket actually becomes negative, right? Because you would probably ride more if it's cheaper, correct? And if you feel better and the experience is nicer, correct?
Right.
So then I would use the ticket only to regulate demand. Like I don't want you to travel at 9 a.m. So at 9 a.m. it costs a little bit more because there's so many people.
So I totally get that, but so how do you make the money?
So I make you an example. I give you an example. In the LA Metro, okay, for $1 that you ask to a passenger to pay, it means 75 cents to the LA Metro. There are $2.5 of subsidies from the state. Now, imagine that, just take the $1 that they are paying every day to pay the ticket. We did a study with Fullerton University. For each user, you can have up to $4 just adding them using an app and monetize this app through advertising, through data mining, through relevant information or services that you give to the user. $4. So $1 you were paying the ticket, now we have $3 in excess. You don't even need the subsidies that you are paying right now. These are concrete action that we can do right now in the traditional systems.
I give you an example from we're probably the same age. So when we were young, video games were super expensive, right? You had to go, you had to buy them. Today, most of them are free. But the video game companies are actually making way more money than they used to because they found a new model. Right? They're using upsells, they're using different elements to engage you better, you actually enjoying it. Or if you look at Facebook and Google, which are giving very large infrastructures that are very expensive, but yet you're not really paying for it. Right? They found other ways on how they can monetize on you. But you're actually spending more time in your car, commuting, in transportation in general, than you are on Facebook. And yet the only thing that tries to monetize on your commute today is radio.
Isn't that amazing? A radio which was invented approximately 2,000 years ago. I think Jesus was listening to radio. It's like the oldest media, right?
So if you think,
Jesus.
I mean, if you think about it, radio is dead, right? The moment we have self-driving cars, like who would listen to radio anymore? Because you look at the Young Turks, right, and you watch it,
right?
And so we fall into the same category. And I think there is a whole possibility where you can, give services, have upsells. Where I give you better service and you might choose that one. Where it's about either you have time or you have money, kind of, But we can give a better experience, and that's an important part.
Our passenger doesn't have windows because structurally will be diminishing the resistance of the capsule. But we put screens instead of windows. And these are high definition screens. They are special because we developed the technology that can actually follow your eyes and give you the right perspective on the video that you're looking. So right now we're capable of show a simulation of it's outside. So we can either connect the camera to show what it's outside, or you can select programs. So it is like an entertainment program. Where do you want to go? You want to go to Paris? You want to go?
So if I'm traveling New York to Washington and I'm on Amtrak, that's actually a miserable looking, path. If you've ever been on it, it's just, it's not pretty. So instead, you could program rainforest, and you're traveling through.
Or the future or the past. You want to see how it was, and you want to be attacked by Godzilla. You can do that.
It's a monetization strategy too, right?
Yes.
So on one hand, they're giving you a better experience because they show you something that you haven't seen before. On the other hand, it might be an opportunity for a film company to show the latest movie environment, right? So you're going through Jurassic World or Terminator Land, and now they're paying basically for your ticket, right? And
Right.
you're having this experience. It's a completely new way of,
Maybe
call
you
it
can
experience
combine-
content.
You can combine going to the movies with traveling. So you say, "Oh, I'm going to go see the latest movie, but I'm going to Minnesota." But then they'll not want to get off, and they'll wind up in Ottawa.
It's basically a virtual reality, right? It's a virtual reality experience that you're going through, that the whole capsule is going through, and that can be monetized, as an example. So, but at the same time, it's something that you're actually enjoying.
Right. So one more technical issue. So I read that it's 760 miles, speed of sound. But right now, that's if it's empty. If you put people in it, it comes all the way down to 160 miles per hour. Is that true or no?
No.
No?
Probably in the press that loves to speculate about the Hyperloop, but not in the official scientific press.
I mean, it's, obviously you calculate the weight of the capsule
Yeah.
with people in there, and then you need a certain amount of energy to move those people. But there's no, it doesn't make sense to move an empty capsule at the speed of sound,
exactly.
right?
That's why I asked.
You don't want to,
It's like they're not going to do as much good empty.
the reason why you don't want to touch the speed of sound right now, or not, you don't want to go over it, because there's, we don't really know what happens to the structure. Right? So once you break the sound barrier, there's a lot of vibrations, and you have the pylons, you have the tube, the integrity. So that's the issue while you're kind of stopping below. It gets very complicated once you reach speed of sound with the flows around the
Resonance.
capsule, for example.
I'm with you. So then let's talk finally about timeframes here. When would this realistically get up and running? Is it going to be a 20-year project, or is it going to be a 2-year thing? I mean, there's no way it's quicker than 2 years, right?
No, we're actually starting to build this year. We filed a conditional permit in February in the Kings County, along the 5 north of Los Angeles.
Okay.
So we have a land of 5 miles. It's called Quay Valley. So around us, there will be an entire city built, 26,000 houses, amusement parks, resorts. It will be Las Vegas without casinos. And we will be the transportation system of them. There will be 38 months after the conditional permit will be approved. Luckily enough, because we are already waiting a couple of months, we will receive the approval in the next few months. So as soon as we get the approval, we are ready to build.
So I would add casinos, first of all.
Talk Quay.
Yeah, and that's the next thing you guys got to figure out. You mentioned amusement park. How to get through the amusement park lines quicker. A Hyperloop for amusement park lines. That one's free. I'm like Elon Musk. I'll give you that one for free as an idea.
We need to give him stock options.
I'm telling you.
No, but we do actually. So yeah, right now we're building in, we're going to be building in Kings County in Quay Valley. That's a project that's going to happen this year. We also signed an agreement with the country of Slovakia. So we're now looking at the routes for a local system in Bratislava with the vision of connecting Bratislava and Vienna and Bratislava and Budapest. And we're negotiating with roughly 14 countries right now. So we expect to have at least two deals over the next, next couple of months. And then...
This is a usual Cenk simplistic question, but I'm Chief Cenk Officer, so I can do it. Is water a problem? Can you get past the ocean or no?
There are some, there's technology out there that allows you to go underwater with the tubes. Actually, in Norway, for example, that's kind of how they build bridges today. They don't build the bridges anymore. They just build tubes underwater. So you can do it. Obviously, it's something that you have to study a little bit more, especially if you want to cross oceans, which is probably maybe your question. That gets complicated,
very complicated
in a separate way. but it's not excluded in the future. Safety issues are big, and it might be something a little bit more for freight. But theoretically, definitely possible.
So last thing on time frame. Okay, let's zoom out, if we will, to 100 years from now. Are we all in Hyperloops, or are we in the thing after the Hyperloop? And what's the thing after the Hyperloop?
So there's phases that we look, to implement in Hyperloop and how this will be implemented in the city of the future. In the first phase, you see cars or self-driving cars bringing people to the station, then they have to drop, and then they take the first capsule. Local station brings you to the main station, and then the capsule switch to the destination. That's phase one. Phase two, you actually have a car that is pressurized, so it can actually become a capsule, and you don't even need the station anymore. You just go into the tube. And maybe the third phase.
So I step outside my house, like the tube.
Exactly.
I get like those mail things,
Right.
and you just get zoomed to wherever you're going.
Right, and maybe the third phase will be the capsule that will levitate in the new generation of roads that will be made of a aluminum foil or copper, and then you have maybe a beautiful fields of tulips instead of the roads.
My personal bet is on teletransportation, right?
That
Yes.
would be awesome.
100 years, I mean, come on.
Yeah. What do you
It's,
think? Is it we're ever going to do that?
Well, I mean, once we're finished with the Hyperloop, we'll start working on that.
Because when I was a kid, I came to the U.S. when I was 8 years old. We moved from Istanbul to New Jersey, and I would have dreams. This is a literal dream, right? Where in my dream, I would walk across one street, and next thing you know, I'd be in Istanbul. And then I'd walk across another street, and I'd be back in the U.S. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And I'd wake up, like in the middle of the dream, I'm like, this is amazing. I want to use this all the time.
If you really think about what is teletransportation, I think that specifically virtual reality, right, has a lot of opportunity to transport you, right, into somewhere in a different area, but you're still, I mean, for real, you're actually still where you were, but you're acting. You can be actually there. So, I think in 100 years, that should be probably something that's definitely doable.
I think personally that we will be expanding the human sensorially. So you will be able to go to Mars without moving from your chair, because we will be augmented sensorial. There will be the possibility to actually feel exactly the experience of being in Mars, being wherever you want to be.
Right.
I don't know if we will be able to beam atoms, but beaming human atoms will mean killing the person. So,
Yeah, I was going to say, beaming the atoms isn't the problem. Putting them back together is the problem.
Exactly. But
yeah.
I believe more in augmented.
So then again, now you're going to force me to ask the holodeck question. This is a question I asked Kevin Kelly, the founder of Wired Magazine. He's convinced that we are going to have holodecks in our lifetime. So if you watch Star Trek, the holodeck, you walk in, it's virtual reality that is like reality. It's like I'm talking to Dirk and Bebop right here, and I'm interacting with them. And
That's happening.
That'll happen.
Oh yeah, that for sure.
And it'll feel just like this, like
Yes.
you guys are here, even though
Yes.
you're not here.
Yes.
You don't think so? I mean, if you really think about how fast we are innovating today, it's incredible, right? If you think back 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, you didn't have an iPhone.
Yep.
Right? I think Facebook was just born, right? And today, I mean, only the little innovation that happened through the iPhone, VR, and all these things that are accelerating, all the small things, and it's exciting if you think about the next 20 years or 30 years. I mean, I plan to be around for quite a little bit. So I think that, something like the holodeck, I mean, it already exists in theory. There's, I don't know, if The Void, for example, are you familiar with The Void?
Not really, no.
No, it's a game where you put on your headset and special suit and you're working through this environment. This
Right. So I don't know if
was
you
it
get-
building VR on top of actually real things. So.
Not bad, but I need girls in the holiday. Let's just keep it real, okay? that's
I
what we're-
actually believe that's the first application.
Of
That's the
course,
first
of course it
There's
is.
a
Like the
bunch
first
of people-
application for the internet was porn.
Right.
So
Right.
There's a bunch of people that are already working on that one.
I'm sure they are because there's real money in that. So yeah, no, look, it would be amazing, and you're right. I mean, we're in it. We're in a hyperloop of time in a sense, and so it's hard to realize the context of it because when you look back, I went through all of college, all of law school with no internet.
Right.
And so let alone high school. And I was driving my nephews through my old town that I grew up in New Jersey, and I said, "This is a thing we call the library." And we used to drive to the library and look up things called books. And that's the only way we could get information.
You're prehistoric.
Right. And they're like, no, that's the only way you could get information. You would have to
indeed.
drive and actually find a book and you would have to read it. I'm like, yes, that's what we would have to do. And that's in our lifetimes. But at the same time, you hear these fantastical things. We're going to get this, we're going to
Right.
get that. But then we're impatient. Like, what? Let's go.
Yeah,
It's Tuesday already. Why don't we have it?
But that's exactly where we come in, as an example. So the structure that we have created with our company is an example. So before, this wasn't possible. Today, that's possible, that people are literally from all around the world can come together with their knowledge, right? With the things with their time, and can build something, and much faster than you would normally do. And it's a great example of what the internet can actually do and how it can connect people and how we can accelerate innovation. So, and we are, I think, the first time that something like this is actually being done. I mean, open source, I'm a big fan of open source and it works fantastic, right? But you can't build a commercial viable company. So now you take open source methodology, but you're building a commercial viable company that has IP, that has value, and will have a couple of millionaires that basically just because they read something somewhere and said, hey, I love this idea, and participated online basically very, very soon. So it will take on, and I'm completely convinced that we will be solving the biggest challenges together in a lot of different areas by using a similar model like this. And so we'll see a lot of the innovations happening even much, much faster.
Yeah. Imagine we do crowdstorm, what we call crowdstorm. We push a task and question to our community, and in 72 hours you see answers from all over the world, and you can cherry pick and select the best technologies, the best solutions, and they come to you from all part of the world. And this is amazing. I've never seen anything like that.
Well, I'm the world record holder for most interested in technology with the least amount of knowledge. So I love talking to you guys who know how it actually works. I appreciate that. And before we let you go, there's no way that I can leave here without asking you, Bibop, what transhumanism is, because you're apparently involved in that.
Yeah.
Do we transition out of being human?
No.
Is that the last journey?
Transhumanism is a movement that predict and also facilitate the application of human technology to basically enhance human beings. So what I was saying to you before, for example, applying sensors that can actually enhance us. What we are doing with artificial intelligence, we are actually trying to replicate us right now. But the technology will evolve in a way that we can also improve. So transhumanism is how to pass from Homo sapiens to Homo evolutus. So it's a transition that we will do, and I'm very happy to be part of it.
So basically, it's just his excuse to have 2 smart watches, to buy every latest gadget, and to have 3 phones, right?
That's right. So now you're transhuman in a sense.
I'm absolutely transhuman.
That's the beginning. Okay, well, and now this conversation, in a sense, at least for me, is the beginning of the Hyperloop, because now I realize it's coming. So the company is Hyperloop Transportation Technologies. Dirk and Bibop, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.